AITA for responding to my father-in-law in Korean after he tried to trick me? The first time Robert spoke Korean in front of me, I let him think I was lost. I'm Henry, 38, and I had been married to his daughter, Lauren, for 6 years by the night of that dinner. I had spent most of those years trying to be the kind of husband who didn't make his wife choose between him and her family. I brought spare phone chargers because somebody always forgot one. I remembered that Carla liked lemon pie but hated whipped cream. I drove Brendan home when he drank too much, covered small emergencies, and never announced what I had done afterward. For a long time, I told myself that respect didn't always have to be loud. Robert had a way of smiling when he dismissed me. If I offered an opinion about a home repair, a contract, or even where we should eat, he would lean back and say, "That's cute, Henry," like I was a teenager contributing to an adult conversation. Carla was softer about it. She would pat Lauren's wrist and say something like, "You always did choose with your heart," then look at me and add, "I'm joking, sweetheart. Don't be so serious." Brendan was less polished. He was 31 and had spent most of his life learning that a crisis became somebody else's responsibility if he waited long enough. The first time he asked me for money, it was $80 for a rideshare and a hotel after he missed a flight. He promised to send it back Friday. Friday came with a thumbs-up emoji and no money. The next time, it was $400 for an emergency bill. Then $1,200 because his bank had supposedly frozen his account. Each request arrived with urgency, gratitude, and a deadline for repayment that disappeared the moment the transfer cleared. When I finally stopped sending money, he acted confused. "You know I'm good for it," he said over the phone. "No," I told him. "I know you're good at asking for it." Lauren did not laugh. After I hung up, she stood at the kitchen counter with her arms folded while the dishwasher hummed behind her. "You could have been nicer." I said no. "You made him feel like a loser. He owes me almost $2,000. He's embarrassed. So am I, Lauren. I'm embarrassed that your brother treats me like an ATM and you're worried about his feelings." She pressed her lips together and looked away. "That's just how my family is," she said. "Everything doesn't need to become a confrontation." That sentence became the patch she put over every crack in our marriage. When Robert mocked me, that was just how he talked. When Carla made a cutting comment, I was taking it too personally. When Brendan ignored another repayment message, I was told that family shouldn't keep score. If I objected to the three of them switching to Korean at the table and laughing while I sat there, I was making everyone self-conscious. The truth was, I understood more than they thought. I had studied Korean for several years when I was younger and kept up with it on and off. I was not perfect. Fast slang could get away from me, and I sometimes had to build a sentence in my head before speaking. But I could follow a normal conversation, especially when the people speaking assumed they didn't need to be careful. Lauren knew I had taken classes years earlier, but I had always downplayed how much I retained. Her parents never asked. The first few times they switched languages, the comments were harmless. Whether the food was overcooked, who had called Carla that morning, whether Angela was bringing dessert. Then Robert made a joke about how slowly I ate. Carla said I looked nervous whenever money came up. Brendan called me the dependable one, in a tone that didn't sound like praise. I understood. I stayed quiet. That was my mistake. At first, I thought silence was restraint. Eventually, it became permission. A few weeks before the dinner, Robert left me a voicemail. "Henry, call me back. Family handles things quietly. We need to discuss Brendan." I didn't return the call immediately. I asked Lauren whether she knew what it was about. She was sitting on the couch with one leg tucked beneath her, scrolling on her phone. "Probably nothing," she said. "Your dad said we need to discuss Brendan. He always sounds dramatic. Is Brendan in trouble?" She locked her screen. "Not that I know of." The pause before her answer was small, but I noticed it. Robert called again 2 days later. This time, his tone was almost warm. "I want us to start fresh," he said. "Just you, Lauren, and a few people at dinner. No tension. No old grievances." "Who are the few people?" "Carla, of course. Angela may stop by, and C.O. Jean will be there." I knew C.O. Jean only by reputation. He was an old family acquaintance whom Robert treated with a level of courtesy he rarely extended to anyone else. When C.O. Jean entered a room, Robert sat straighter and stopped interrupting. "What is the dinner about?" I asked. "Family," Robert said, and clearing the air. That evening, Lauren leaned against the bedroom door while I folded laundry. Dad's trying, she said. Please don't go in defensive. I asked what he wants to clear up. He wouldn't say. Maybe he wants to apologize. Your father has never apologized to me. Then maybe this matters. She looked hopeful, or at least she arranged her face that way. I wanted to believe her. That was another weakness of mine. I kept treating hope like evidence. The next morning, Robert forwarded the reservation confirmation to Lauren, and she forwarded it to me, so I would have the time. At the bottom of the email, beneath the room details and menu deposit, was a line that read, Payment contact, Henry. Card on file, to be provided at dinner. I sent Lauren a screenshot. Why am I listed as payment contact? Her reply came less than a minute later. Probably a booking mistake. Dad's assistant must have entered the wrong name. Then another message appeared. Just trust my dad tonight. Please. I stared at the word trust for a while. Trust is easier when people stop hiding the reason they need it. I didn't send that. I typed it, read it, and deleted it. Instead, I forwarded the reservation email to my personal account. I opened my banking app and found the old transfers to Brendan. I saved screenshots of his messages. Can you cover me until Friday? I swear I'll fix it. I downloaded Robert's voicemail and put everything in a folder on my phone. I was not planning a courtroom presentation. I simply had the feeling that by the end of the night, somebody would try to tell me I had imagined what happened. The day of the dinner, Lauren was more careful than usual. She asked whether my shirt needed pressing. She reminded me that C.O. Jean valued manners. In the car, she kept smoothing the fabric over her knees. Brendan isn't coming, right? I asked. She looked out the passenger window. I don't think so. That isn't what I asked. My dad said it was a small family dinner. Is Brendan coming? I don't know, Henry. Her phone lit up in the cup holder before she turned it face down. I caught only the sender's name, Carla. Lauren didn't read the message in front of me. The restaurant had a private dining area behind a wooden sliding door. A server took our coats, and I slipped the valet ticket into my wallet. Inside, the table was already set with polished glasses and folded cloth napkins. A white envelope sat beside Robert's water glass. Robert stood when we entered. Henry, he said, gripping my hand with both of his. I'm glad you came. His warmth felt rehearsed. Carla kissed Lauren's cheek and touched my arm. Tonight is a clean slate, she said. C.O. Jean was seated across from Robert. He rose, shook my hand, and gave me a polite nod. Angela sat near the end of the table. She was Lauren's aunt and the closest thing the family had to a neutral witness. She avoided conflict so consistently that she could watch two people argue over a burning curtain and ask whether anyone wanted coffee. At first, the dinner looked normal. Robert asked C.O. Jean about a recent trip. Carla complimented Lauren's earrings. Angela told a story about a neighbor's dog getting loose during a delivery. I began to wonder whether I had overread the email. Then the door slid open, and Brendan walked in 20 minutes late. He stopped just inside the room and gave an exaggerated blink. Oh, he said. Henry, didn't know you'd be here. I looked at Lauren. She reached for her water. Robert waved Brendan toward the empty chair beside Carla. Sit down. We're all family. Brendan dropped into the seat and began peeling the label from his water bottle. He didn't look at me again. The server handed out menus. Robert ordered appetizers for the table without asking. He chose 2 bottles of wine, then added a premium bottle after C.O. Jean mentioned he preferred red. When the server asked, separate checks or all together? Robert looked directly at me. Henry has always been generous, he said. The server turned toward me, pen ready. We'll decide at the end, I said. Robert's smile tightened for half a second. Of course. The courses came slowly. Every few minutes, Robert found a new reason to praise my sense of responsibility. Henry has always understood what it means to step up. Henry is practical. Henry knows family comes before comfort. Each sentence sounded like a compliment until I noticed the way Brendan relaxed after hearing it. The white envelope remained beside Robert's glass. Lauren barely ate. She moved pieces of food around her plate and checked my face whenever her father spoke. Once, under the table, she pressed her knee against mine as if reminding me to stay cooperative. Halfway through the main course, her phone lit up beside her plate. She had left it angled toward the ceiling instead of fully face down. A notification appeared from Carla. Just keep him calm until Dad explains. Lauren snatched the phone up so quickly that her fork clattered against the plate. Angela stopped talking. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine," Lauren said. "Butterfingers." I looked at her. She looked at Robert. That was the moment I stopped hoping the dinner was clumsy and started accepting that it was planned. Robert turned to Seo-jin and switched to Korean. He began with something about Brendan's situation being unfortunate but manageable. Seo-jin answered briefly. His expression remained polite, but the corners of his mouth had gone flat. Carla joined in. Her voice was low and gentle, the same voice she used when saying something cruel enough to require soft packaging. "He thinks this is an apology dinner," Robert said. Carla dabbed the corner of her mouth with her napkin. "Lauren knows how to make him feel guilty," she replied. "She said he softens when she makes it about family." Brendan gave a nervous little laugh. "He paid before. He'll do it again." My hand went still around my water glass. Robert glanced at me, saw no reaction, and continued. "Let him pay first. Then we'll tell him what he really agreed to." The sentence was so clean and casual that for a moment I wondered whether I had translated it wrong. I replayed the words in my head. "Let him pay first. Then we'll tell him what he really agreed to." Across the table, Seo-jin looked at me. Not through me. At me. His eyes stayed there 1 second too long. Lauren was not surprised by anything being said. She was afraid. There is a difference. Surprise makes people turn toward the source. Fear makes them monitor the person who might react. She was watching me. I could have exposed them right then. Part of me wanted to. I imagined the look on Robert's face if I answered in Korean before he reached for the envelope. But I had spent years being told I misunderstood tone, timing, intention, humor, family culture, and my own place in the room. If I spoke too soon, the evening would become another story about Henry overreacting. So I waited. I let them finish. I let Robert believe he still controlled the table. When the conversation returned to English, I took a sip of water and looked at Lauren. "Is there anything you want to tell me before your dad opens that envelope?" I asked. The room quieted. Lauren's fingers curled around her napkin. "Just hear him out," she said. "That wasn't my question." "Henry, please. Did you know Brendan would be here?" She glanced at her brother. "I knew he might come." "Did you know your father planned to ask me for money?" Robert set down his fork. "This is not an interrogation." I kept my eyes on Lauren. She touched my wrist. "Please don't make this a scene." I looked at her hand, then at her face. That was her chance. She could have said yes. She could have said her parents pressured her. She could have stood up, taken the envelope, and told them the dinner was over. She didn't need to be brave for an hour. She only needed to be honest for 10 seconds. Instead, she said, "Just listen." Robert took that as permission. He picked up the envelope and slid it across the table toward me. "This is difficult for Brendan," he said. "He made a few decisions that created a temporary problem." Brendan stared at his plate. "What kind of problem?" I asked. "It got bigger than I expected," Brendan muttered. Robert opened the envelope himself and removed several pages. He aligned them neatly in front of me. The top page had Brendan's name, mine, and a number large enough to make my pulse slow instead of race. $42,000. There was an immediate payment of $15,000 listed near the top. Beneath it was language stating that I would personally guarantee the remaining balance if Brendan failed to meet a repayment schedule. I read the first page twice. Seo-jin spoke carefully. "Robert told me this arrangement had already been discussed with you." I looked up. "No one has discussed this with me." Robert leaned back. "Not formally. Not informally either." Brendan finally looked at me. "I told them you could cover it." "You told who?" "The people involved." "Using my name?" "I said you were family. I said you'd probably help. You represented me as your backup without asking me. Why are you saying it like I stole from you?" "Because you spent credibility that didn't belong to you." Carla exhaled through her nose. "Sweetheart, don't twist this into something ugly." I looked at the document again. It was not a formal completed contract, but it was prepared. My name was printed. A signature line waited at the bottom. Robert tapped the page with one finger. "We are not asking," he said. "We are trusting you to do the right thing." Lauren placed her hand over mine. "Please," she whispered, "don't embarrass me." I pulled my hand free. Then I looked directly at Robert and answered in Korean. I understood every word. The room became so quiet that I heard the server set a tray down outside the sliding door. Robert's face did not change immediately. His expression held for a second, like a picture frozen on a screen. Then his eyes narrowed. Carla's napkin stopped halfway to the table. Brendan's mouth opened. Lauren went pale. I continued in Korean, slowly enough that there could be no claim I had accidentally repeated a memorized phrase. You said I believed this was an apology dinner. You said Lauren knew how to make me feel guilty. Brendan said I paid before and would pay again. Then you said I should pay first before you told me what I had really agreed to. Robert glanced at Seo-jin. I switched back to English. So which part was the apology, and which part was the setup? Carla recovered first. You misunderstood the tone, she said. No, I understood the words. Language is complicated. You do not understand the family context. I'm not confused. I'm done pretending confusion is the problem. She looked at Lauren. Say something. Your husband is embarrassing everyone. I turned to my wife. What took me longer, I said, was understanding that Lauren did too. Lauren shook her head quickly. I didn't know he was going to say it like that. You knew Brendan would be here. I knew he might need help. You knew your father put my name on the reservation as payment contact. I thought that was for dinner. You saw the document before tonight? No. Robert cut in. That is enough. This could have been handled quietly. Seo-jin looked at him. Is it true, he asked. Robert's jaw tightened. Is what true? That you told Brendan and others Henry had agreed to guarantee this. I said Henry is a responsible man. That was not my question. Robert didn't answer. Seo-jin's posture changed. He no longer looked like a guest at a family dinner. He looked like a man reviewing how he had been brought into the room. I was told tonight would confirm an existing family arrangement, he said. I was not told the arrangement had never been presented to Henry. Brendan shifted in his chair. It's not like I meant for it to get this bad. Angela, who had been silent through most of the exchange, stared at the papers. $42,000, she said. Carla gave her a warning look. Angela, this is private. You invited me. We invited you to support the family. Angela looked at me, then at Robert. I thought Henry was overreacting before, she said. I don't think that anymore. Robert's face darkened. This is between me and my son-in-law. No, Angela said. You made it a table full of witnesses because you wanted him cornered. Henry didn't ruin dinner. You used dinner to corner him. Carla turned toward Lauren again. Are you going to let them speak to your father this way? Lauren looked trapped, but not by us. She was trapped by the fact that her usual strategy, keeping everyone calm until the moment passed, could not survive direct questions. Dad, she said quietly, you shouldn't have put Henry's name on anything. Robert stared at her. After everything we have done for you. There it was. The same lever, applied to a different person. Lauren dropped her eyes. I took out my phone and photographed the first page of the document. Robert reached for it. What are you doing? Keeping a record of paperwork with my name on it. You're not taking that. I'm not taking it. I'm documenting it. I pushed the papers back across the table. I am not signing anything, paying anything, or verbally agreeing to any obligation involving Brendan. Brendan scoffed. You don't have to make it sound so formal. You used my name in a financial conversation without permission. Formal is appropriate. I thought you'd help because you helped before. I helped you with small emergencies. You treated that as authorization to gamble with my finances. It wasn't gambling. Then you should have no problem handling it yourself. Robert placed both hands on the table. You are part of this family when it matters. I came here as family, I said. You invited me as a wallet. Carla's voice became sharp for the first time. Family comes first. That should not be controversial. Family comes first does not mean I come last. The sliding door opened, and the server stepped in with a careful smile. Would anyone like dessert? No one answered. I looked at him. I'd like a separate check for my meal and one non-alcoholic drink. Robert spoke immediately. The bill is together. Mine isn't. The server looked between us. I can separate the items, sir. Thank you. Robert leaned toward me. Do not do this in front of staff. You listed me as payment contact. I am correcting the mistake. The server left. Seo-jin stood and buttoned his jacket. I think this is a family matter I was not told I would be witnessing, he said. Robert stood too. Co. Jean, please. There has been a misunderstanding. Co. Jean looked at the document, then at me. Respect is difficult to claim after that. He nodded once to Angela and Lauren, then left the room. Robert watched the door close behind him. For the first time that evening, he looked genuinely shaken. Not because he had hurt me, because someone he respected had seen him do it. Brendan whispered, "Great. Now everything is worse." Angela gave him a tired look. "No, Brendan. Everything was already worse. You were just hoping Henry would pay enough that you wouldn't have to see it." The server returned with 2 printed receipts. He placed mine near my hand, and the larger one near Robert. I paid for my portion, signed the slip, and put the customer copy in my wallet beside the valet ticket. Lauren stood when I did. "Henry, wait." I picked up my coat. "We can talk at home. Please don't leave like this." "I'm leaving exactly like this." Robert stepped between me and the door, not blocking it completely, but close enough that the gesture was clear. A decent son-in-law does not humiliate his wife's parents in front of guests. A decent father-in-law doesn't arrange a signature line before asking a question. His eyes hardened. "You think speaking our language gives you the right to spy on private conversations? You had those conversations at a table where I was sitting. You should have told us you understood. You should have spoken as if I were a person even when you thought I didn't." He had no answer for that. I stepped around him and left. Lauren followed me into the hallway. "Henry, please." I pressed the valet ticket into the attendant's hand. "You knew enough?" I said. "I didn't know about the guarantee. You knew Brendan was coming. You knew your father wanted money. You knew they planned to pressure me, and you told me it was an apology dinner. I thought if you heard them out, maybe you'd agree to help with part of it. That is not better. I was trying to keep everyone from fighting. You brought me into a fight without telling me I was the target." Her face crumpled for a second, but I was too tired to rescue her from the feeling. "I was scared," she said. "If I pushed back, they would cut me off emotionally. So you offered me instead. That's not fair." It's exactly what happened. My car pulled up. The attendant opened the door. Lauren reached for my sleeve. "Are you coming home?" "Yes. We need to talk. But not in the car, and not while your parents are calling you." Her phone was already vibrating in her hand. I drove home alone. By the time I arrived, I had 3 missed calls from Robert, 2 from Carla, and 6 texts from Brendan. The first text said, "Can we not do this in front of everybody?" The second, "I can explain." Then, "I only told them you could probably help." Then, "The first payment is the main thing. You wouldn't even be out the full $42,000. That message told me everything about how he viewed the situation. He thought $15,000 was a reasonable price for me to pay so he could avoid discomfort. I did not reply. Robert left a voicemail. "You made a private family issue into a spectacle. Call me back tonight so we can fix what you did with Co. Jean. Family handles things quietly." I saved that voicemail beside the earlier one. Carla texted a minute later. "Lauren is devastated. I hope proving a point was worth hurting your wife." I read it twice, then put my phone face down on the counter. Lauren came home 40 minutes later. She closed the front door gently, as if a quiet entrance could soften what had happened. I was at the dining table with my laptop open. The room smelled faintly of the coffee I had made and forgotten to drink. She set her purse down. "Are you emailing a lawyer?" "No." Her shoulders lowered slightly. "I'm writing down what happened while it is fresh." "Why?" "Because your family survives by changing the story. That's not fair. Your mother already texted me that I hurt you by proving a point. Your father says I created a spectacle. Brendan is explaining that I would only be out $15,000. None of them has said we should not have used Henry's name or lied to get him there." Lauren sat across from me. "I'm sorry." "For what?" She blinked. "For tonight." That's not an answer. She rubbed both hands over her face. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you Brendan would be there. And I'm sorry I knew Dad wanted to ask for help. And I didn't know about the exact papers. You keep apologizing for the details you can prove you didn't know. What do you want me to say?" The truth without a defense attached. She looked down at the table. Minutes passed. The refrigerator cycled on, then off. "Finally," she said, "I knew they were planning to pressure you." I did not respond. She continued. Mom told me Dad wanted you to feel like saying no would embarrass Brendan in front of Jean. She said if everyone stayed calm, you would probably agree to at least the first payment. My throat tightened, but my voice stayed level. And you brought me anyway. Yes. Why? Because Brendan was panicking. Dad was furious. Mom kept calling me. I thought if you helped once, the problem would stop. It never stops. It moves. I know that now. No, you knew that before. You just thought it would move on to me. She began to cry. Quietly, not dramatically. I had seen her cry after arguments before, and I had usually crossed the room, touched her shoulder, lowered my voice, and helped us find a version of events that hurt less. I stayed in my chair. You didn't have to know every detail to know I was being set up, I said. I didn't think Dad would be so cruel about it. You thought the cruelty would remain hidden. She closed her eyes. That landed harder than anything else I said. I turned the laptop so she could see the email I had drafted. It was not long. For clarity, I will not sign, guarantee, transfer, or verbally agree to any financial obligation involving Brendan or your parents. Any future financial request must be made in writing, and my answer regarding Brendan's current debt is no. I will not attend family dinners or meetings with your parents unless they acknowledge the setup and apologize without blaming my reaction. If we are going to continue this marriage, we will attend counseling and keep our finances fully separated until trust is rebuilt. Lauren read it twice. You're separating our finances? I'm protecting mine. We're married. Yes, that is why your part in this matters more than theirs. Are you leaving me? I'm not making a permanent decision tonight. I'm sleeping in the guest room. Tomorrow, I'm going to stay somewhere else for a while. Her eyes widened. You said you were coming home. I came home to talk. I did not say everything was fine. She folded her arms around herself. What do I have to do? Stop asking for the fastest way to make the consequences go away. I'm asking how to fix our marriage. Then start with the truth. All of it. No edited version. No, I didn't know exactly. No blaming your parents for choices you made. She nodded, but I could tell she wanted a checklist she could complete by morning. Trust does not work that way. I emailed the boundary statement to her and copied my personal account. Then I sent Robert one sentence. Do not use my name in any financial discussion, document, promise, or representation. I have not agreed to support Brendan in any form. His response came almost immediately. You are destroying this family over money. I replied once. No, I am refusing to let this family destroy me with it. Then I muted him. The next morning, Brendan called from a different number. I answered because I wanted to know whether he had used my name anywhere else. He skipped hello. I need you to tell Jean you misunderstood. I did not. If he backs out, I have to come up with the money now. That sounds like the agreement you made. I made it because Dad said you would help. Did I say I would help? No, but... Did I authorize you to use my name? No. Then tell everyone involved that you spoke without my permission. He went quiet. I'll look like a liar. You lied. Can you stop talking like that? No. He breathed heavily into the phone. I thought family was supposed to help. I helped you repeatedly. You converted kindness into entitlement. So that's it. For money, guarantees, and cleanup? Yes. I hung up. Later that afternoon, Angela called. I owe you an apology, she said. For what? I've watched them dismiss you for years. I kept thinking both sides were being stubborn because that was easier than admitting one side was taking advantage. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Thank you for saying that. Robert is telling everyone you planned the whole thing because you secretly learned Korean to spy on them. I learned Korean years before I met Lauren. I know. Lauren told me. That surprised me. Angela continued. I told him it does not matter when you learned it. He said those things in front of you. What happened after I left? Jean called Robert from the parking lot. He said he would not attach his name to any arrangement based on a false representation. Brendan has to deal directly with the company now. Did Robert pay the dinner bill? Angela laughed once, without humor. He argued about the wine for 10 minutes. It was a small detail, but it fit him perfectly. $42,000 in Brendan's debt could be assigned to me as a moral duty. A few $100s of wine on Robert's own receipt was an injustice. Over the next week, the family campaign arrived in waves. Carla sent long messages about loyalty, then shorter ones when I did not respond. Robert left voicemails accusing me of humiliating him in front of a respected guest. Brendan alternated between anger and panic. Lauren did not defend them to me, but she still softened their language. Dad feels betrayed. Mom is terrified Brendan will be ruined. They think you waited to expose them. Each time, I asked the same thing. What do you think? At first, she answered with what everyone felt. Then she began answering the question. I think Dad lied about your agreement. I think Mom helped pressure me into bringing you. I think Brendan used you because he believed you would be too polite to stop him. And you? I asked. She swallowed. I used your patience against you. That was the first sentence that sounded like accountability instead of crisis management. I stayed elsewhere for 3 weeks. Lauren and I met twice in public and once with a counselor. During the first counseling session, she spent 20 minutes explaining her parents before the counselor interrupted her. You are describing why the pressure worked, the counselor said. Henry is asking why you passed the pressure to him. Lauren cried again, but this time she kept talking. She admitted that Robert had always punished disagreement by withdrawing affection. Carla would call repeatedly, then go silent for days. Brendan's emergencies became loyalty tests. Lauren had learned that the fastest way to restore peace was to give her parents what they wanted or find someone else who could. For years, that someone had been me. Understanding the pattern did not excuse it. It did, however, make the choice in front of her clearer. Robert refused to apologize. His closest attempt was a message that said, I regret that you interpreted a family request as disrespect. I did not answer. Carla sent Lauren a separate message saying she would welcome me back when I was ready to behave like a husband instead of an adversary. Lauren showed it to me during our second counseling session. What did you say? I asked. She handed me her phone. Her reply read, Henry did not cause this. You, Dad, Brendan, and I did. Do not contact him about money or ask me to pressure him again. Until you can apologize without blaming his reaction, we will not attend family dinners. It was the first time I had ever seen Lauren draw a boundary with them that did not include a loophole. I gave the phone back. Thank you, I said. She looked disappointed that I did not say more, but she accepted it. Brendan eventually negotiated his own payment plan. Angela told me he sold the expensive SUV he had insisted he could not live without and moved into Robert and Carla's guest room. Robert covered part of the immediate amount, which led to a fight between him and Brendan that lasted several days. No one asked why Robert had not simply paid from the beginning. The answer was obvious. He could afford to help, but he preferred assigning the cost to someone whose resistance he considered socially inconvenient. CO Gene ended his involvement with Robert's arrangement entirely. I do not know exactly what business or personal opportunity Robert lost, and I did not ask. I did not expose him to damage his reputation. He damaged it by assuming the only person at the table who mattered was the one he wanted to impress. 2 months after the dinner, Lauren and I were still living separately, but we were attending counseling every week. Our finances were separated. She had stopped forwarding messages from her parents unless they directly affected me. She blocked Brendan after he asked her to use our joint savings, just this once. One evening after counseling, we sat in my car for a few minutes without turning on the engine. I told Dad he can't use your name again, she said. That should never have needed to be said. I know. She looked down at her hands. I keep wanting you to tell me we're going to be okay. I can't promise that yet. Do you still love me? Yes. She looked up quickly. But love is not consent, I said. It is not a signature. It is not permission to volunteer me for whatever your family refuses to carry. I understand. You understand the sentence. We're finding out whether you can live by it. She nodded. A week later, she sent me a message after another call from Robert. I told him I will not bring you into Brendan's problems again. I also told him I will not attend holidays unless he apologizes to you directly. He said I'm choosing you over family. I told him you are my family, and that I should have acted like it sooner. I read the message several times. I did not rush home. I did not declare everything repaired. I replied that I appreciated the truth and that we would keep doing the work in counseling. That may not sound dramatic, but it was the first decision in years that was not made under Robert's deadline, Carla's guilt, Brendan's panic, or Lauren's fear of an uncomfortable silence. It was made slowly, with both of us aware of what it cost. I still have the reservation email listing me as the payment contact. I still have the photograph of the guarantee with my name printed above a blank signature line. I kept the receipts, the messages, and both of Robert's voicemails. Not because I plan to use them against anyone. I keep them because I spent too long allowing other people to revise events until my own memory felt rude. I was not rude that night. I was not impulsive. I did not ruin a reconciliation dinner. There was no reconciliation dinner. There was a bill, a prepared document, a false promise made in my name, and a family counting on my manners to keep me seated. I did not leave because I understood their language. I left because, for the first time, I understood my place at that table. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.